Children of the River, Chapter 8. Sundara was used to being watched. In Willamette Grove, black hair and brown skin stood out. Except for a few people up at the university, almost everyone was white. So when she'd first come here, people stared because she was different. Then, more recently, she noticed the boys paying a new kind of attention, boldly eyeing her from head to foot, hanging on their lockers or elbowing each other as she passed. And of course, there was always Soka monitoring her for the slightest sign of disobedience. After 4 years, Sundar had almost forgotten what life was like without those watchful eyes, the automatic looks of disapproval at her every move. But now she had Jonathan. How much nicer it was to have him studying her. In his eyes, she read only good messages. You are beautiful. You are special. I could look at you all day long. The intensity of his gaze across the classroom was difficult to ignore. She could almost feel the heat of it, and other people were starting to notice too. Kelly assured her that everyone was talking. Now even the girls were looking at her. Conversation seemed to trail off when she walked by, heads turned. What do you expect? Kelly said. Everybody can see he's absolutely smitten with you. Smitten? Knocked out, crazy over, totally infatuated, like that. People can't help being curious. They're all wondering, like, who is this exotic creature they've heard about? Apparently the stir was not lost on Jonathan's coach either. One day on the patio, Sundara looked up to see him watching them from the door of the faculty lunchroom. Is that your coach? She asked Jonathan. He took a quick look. Yeah. What's the matter? Why does he watch us? Just likes to keep an eye on all the players. He turned back and gave the coach a lazy salute. Hackenbrook nodded, not smiling. He looked kind of mean, Sundara whispered. Huh, that's probably one of the nicer words people use. Finally, Hackenbrook went back inside. Why he's so mad? Oh, he has this thing about girls. Thinks you sap our energy. Gets us all distracted. Oh. She was thinking of Kathy. Did the coach watch Jonathan when he was with her? He mad about you eat lunch with me? Jonathan shrugged. It's a bunch of stuff. He called me in the other day, gave me a lot of crap about buckling down, getting my head in the right space. I guess he's got a right to that. But when he starts getting into my personal life, well, I just told him I thought what I did off the field was my own business. But he says anything that affects my performance is his business. Says I'm getting a bad attitude about football. He shrugged again. Guess I really can't argue with that. You don't like football anymore, even though you set you the star? Hey, I signed up to play a game, not fight a war. You should hear Hackenbrook in the locker room. Smash him, pound him, kill him. He tossed the last of his taco back on the tray. Other things bug me too, like the game last week. Did you see that guy get his knee torn up? Everybody goes, hey, we got to win for Baker. But I kept thinking, wait a minute, winning's not going to fix his knee. Sundara waited to make sure he was finished. Why do you play then? Why don't you quit? I don't know, it's hard to explain. Being on the team gets so tied in to who you are. She nodded. Make you important. I see how everybody kind of bow down to the player. Well, not everybody. Plenty of people don't give a hoot about football. He jerked his head toward a group huddled at the curb, smoke rising from whatever they were passing around. Like those guys, they could care less. He turned back to her. And the brains? You wouldn't catch them at a pep rally when they could be logging time in the computer room. He was right, Sundara realized. She'd been so busy trying to understand exactly what Americans were like, she missed the point. Americans were all sorts of things. Anyway, he went on, I don't need people putting me on a pedestal. It's more just this pressure of having to be what everybody wants me to be, my parents and all. She nodded. Your family honor. He laughed, if you want to put it that way. They're probably so proud when you win the game. I guess, but it's weird. I don't think they were into sports when they were younger. They were busy marching for civil rights and all that. Sometimes they kid around like, how on earth did we get a football player for a son? But they come to all the games. I hear my mom on the phone bragging about me, so I guess it's pretty important to them. But sometimes I wish I had the nerve to say, hey, does being able to run fast and catch a ball mean I have to do it? She thought for a moment. Jonathan, You the same person to me if you play football or not. For a moment, he just looked at her. Then his hand came toward her cheek. She flinched. Sorry, he pulled back, I forget. For a long time, neither said anything. Finally, Jonathan spoke. You know, it's funny. My friend Clarkston, he has this theory that I'm going to have a terrible crisis someday when I don't get something I really want. So everything always comes too easy for me. You cannot help that you are smart and can run fast. He rested his forearms on his thighs and stared at the ground. But maybe he's right. I'm beginning to see that now. Maybe I didn't know what it was to really long for something. He turned and gave her a crooked smile. Now I do. Kathy Gates pushed through the swinging door to the lavatory, flanked by two friends. Spotting Sundara, she switched on her smile. Oh, hi, Sundara. Sundara's brush stopped in midair. Hi. Kathy eased into the spot next to her at the mirror and took out a tube of lip gloss. I love your hair, she told Sundara's reflection. Sundara saw her own mouth twitch in a nervous smile as she started brushing again. She glanced at the girl next to her, Jane Cheney. They'd been talking about their latest assignment for English Comp when Kathy interrupted. Now Jan went on about how she never knew what to write, but Sundara was too nervous really to follow her. Kathy took out her brush and fluffed her hair around the face. Toilets flushed. The warning bell sounded. See you later, Jan said, heading into the hall with the rest of the girls. Sundara remained beside Kathy, slowly pulling the brush through her already thoroughly brushed hair. Such a terrible silence. But what did you say to the girlfriend of the boy you liked? I love your hair too? Finally, Kathy dropped her brush into her bag and turned to face Sundara. Don't you think we ought to talk about this? Her voice echoed in the tiled room. Sundara smiled with embarrassment. I don't know what you want me to say. Kathy laughed. I'm not trying to make you say anything in particular. I just want to know what you're thinking. Sundara hesitated. She was thinking she'd never been this close to Kathy before. Her perfume smelled like some kind of fruit, and under her makeup, all across her nose and cheeks, she had lots of little fly specks, freckles, the Americans called them. She was sure Kathy didn't want to hear about that, though. I'm thinking you're mad at me, she said. Oh, come on, Kathy tossed an amused smile back at her friends. Why would I be mad? Sundara kept her eyelids lower. Maybe because Jonathan liked me? Kathy blinked, then regained her composure. Oh, Sundara, of course Jonathan likes you. I like you too. Everybody does. Sundara understood the phony smile. Kathy wanted her to think that Jonathan only liked her in the same friendly way everyone else did. That's why I honestly don't want to see you get hurt. Believe me, I've been through this before. You're not the first girl who's gone after him. Sundara drew a swift breath. I never go after him. Well, you know what I mean. No, I don't. Jonathan asked me about my story for this report, and I say, okay, does that mean I go after him? Kathy exchanged glances with her red-haired friend, and the one so thin she seemed to be starving, then turned back to Sundara and let out a long, disgusted sigh. Okay, I've tried to be nice about it, but look, Jonathan and I have been going together since the 9th grade. We have something very special between us. Sundara gripped her brush. Were they sleeping together? She thought of the first time she'd seen them walking down the hall, holding hands in the back pockets of each other's jeans. Very special, Kathy repeated. So don't try to mess it up. She whirled on her heel and strode out the door. Her friends followed, glancing back to check Sundara's reaction. She was shaking. Americans. They didn't avoid confrontations. They enjoyed them. And Kathy certainly had the advantage in this one. Sundara suspected she had even practiced what to say beforehand. Only later did Sundara think of a good reply. She imagined herself holding up her head, looking Kathy straight in the eye. It's a free country, she would have said, and I can like any boy I want. But then, it wouldn't have been true. Not for her.